In his memoir of the Obama White House, The World as It Is, National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes details the chilling degree of Israeli control at all levels of government, starting with Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel, who is the son of a former Irgun fighter and has long deep ties to Israel. The following is an excerpt of the preparation process for Obama's speech planned for June 4th, 2009.
On a late Saturday morning, I was back in the Oval Office to get Obama's initial thoughts on another speech that he was going to give 2 weeks later in Cairo. The most heavily scrutinized section was about Israel and the Palestinians, an issue that also drew on the varied aspects of Obama's background. On the one hand, he had deep roots in the Chicago Jewish community, which has been historically close to Israel. On the other hand, he had empathy for the Palestinian predicament. During a campaign debate prep, he snapped at me when I suggested going easy on Israeli settlements. If we can't criticize settlements, then we might as well go home. In Israel, Benjamin "Bibi" Netanyahu had just been elected prime minister, and his government, along with its supporters in Washington, were expressing concerns that Obama would use the speech to lay out a peace plan. White House advisors like Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel and Tom Donilon, who was Deputy National Security Advisor, shared those concerns. The speech should not be seen as about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, they said, because that would validate the view that all the problems in the Middle East were rooted in Israel's occupation of Palestinian land. The caricature of Rahm is that he swore all the time, and he did. He was avowedly pro-Israel and pro-peace, and he kept a careful eye on the politics of Israel. When he got tired of hearing me argue that Obama had to show empathy to the Palestinians, he started calling me Hamas. "Hamas over here," he'd say, "is going to make it impossible for my kid to have his fucking bar mitzvah in Israel." Rather than put forward a peace plan, Obama accepted a recommendation to call for a halt to Israeli settlements that were encroaching further into the land necessary for a Palestinian state. Rahm and Axe were occasionally smeared as self-hating Jews for any pressure we put on Israel, but instead of pushing back on the smear, we usually responded by reciting all the ways in which we were supporting Israel. In Washington, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, and other organizations friendly to Netanyahu had established themselves as the adjudicators of what was pro-Israel, and they had zero tolerance for any pressure on the Israeli government and enormous influence with Congress. As we got closer to the date of the speech, the lobbying grew more intense. I was asked to sit down with Lee Rosenberg, one of the leaders of AIPAC, who had been a fundraiser for Obama's campaign. Rosie, as he was called, wanted to make sure we weren't breaking new ground in our support for the Palestinians, or indicating that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was the root of all problems in the Middle East. He then implored me to call on the Muslim world to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. This was a formal position that the United States had not yet taken, as it would be a signal that millions of Palestinian refugees will not have the right to return to Israel as part of a peace agreement. I sat there and took his request on board, assuring him that we were breaking no new ground in our support for the Palestinians. The Israelis were by far the stronger party in the conflict, but we were acting as if it was the reverse.